Hello guys, did you miss me? I know, probably not, but here I am back with another programming tutorial. It's been a while, and actually in the meantime I was not only not coding on YouTube, but I was not really coding at all. Like the last few weeks I was not really working on new programs. I wrote this in many comments, but yeah, I think let's just do another program today. The time feels right. And there's one thing I wanted to experiment with for a longer time now, which is scalping in gold, because I think gold as a symbol in the MetaTrader 5, I mean, the symbol specifications come from the broker, but in short-term trading, gold gives us a pretty solid profile when it comes to trading, because we do have relatively strong moves from time to time, and also we do have relatively low trading costs, which is great. So we see a spread which is, and again I have to say this, relatively small. I also have to say this relative, because this is what is so important, because when I look, for example, at the trading costs, I always put it in relation to the average movement of a symbol, because if the costs are very low and the symbol does not move a lot, then there's not a real benefit. But if the costs are very low and the symbol also has huge moves, then that's a good market usually, that offers good opportunities for trading profits. So the idea is that I write a scalping trading bot. And if you watch this video and if you want, you can copy exactly what I do. So you have the same program and you can do the same tests and you can use this program. And maybe you will even learn something in the process, which would be the best possible outcome, in my opinion. This is what I want to do. And let's talk a bit about the idea. So the idea, I will keep this, or at least in this video, I will keep it super simple, because that's what I do. If you are looking for complex, holy grail, I will make you rich overnight algorithms, this is probably not the best channel for you. My idea was to let's use a moving average, and then let's maybe use this on the H1 or D1. I mean, we will see this later on in the process. And then what I want to do is I want to see if we do have a positive trend or a negative trend. And as by now, when I record this video, the last weeks or month or even years, I think, were definitely more on the long side. So this is where I want to take long positions. Also, my idea is to take these positions especially early in the morning. So let's say right after midnight, or maybe at 2 or 3 o'clock. I will have to figure out when the spread is small, but I think it's small throughout the whole day for gold pretty much. And then I just want to enter a trade in the direction of this moving average. And then to make this a scalping program, I will just use a pretty aggressive trailing stop. And to avoid slippage, I think I don't want this program to trade a lot during news events or during the US Open in general. So maybe it would be a good idea to limit the trading times from, let's say, midnight or 1 or 2 a.m. to the US market open, which is, for me, I'm usually in the time zone GMT +1 or +2, depends on daylight saving. So I would stop trading at, for me, it would be 2 or 3 p.m. then. So this is the general idea. So let's just start writing the program together. So feel free to join me if you also want to learn something. If you don't want to learn, I mean, you don't have to. It's a free world. I mean, in most countries. Don't want to get into politics here. Okay, so let's have a look at this. Let me explain my steps here. First step is, if we want to write a program in the MetaTrader 5, we will need an integrated development environment. Or, I mean, at least we do have this integrated development environment, so it makes it makes sense to use it. You can click on IDE or you can click on Tools, MetaQuotes Language Editor. This is the program pretty much that we can use to create working trading algorithms for the MetaTrader 5. And here in the upper left corner, you can click on New. And then you can select Expert Advisor template, just go with Next and then choose a name. I will call this Gold Scalper. I want to have a cool name today. Gold Midnight Flow. I don't know. I'm not good at naming. But this kind of makes sense because I want to open close to midnight. Yeah. If you think this name is cool, give the video a thumbs up. And if you think this name is not cool, please also do. Okay, so Gold Midnight Flow. There we go. Click on Next, Next, and Finish. So we don't need to make any more settings, adjustments. We just create this Expert Advisor template. So it should look like this. We do have a lot of these gray lines. They are just comments. So we can also delete them without any issues. It will not affect the program. And then we do have these 3 basic functions. I will not explain the super basics because I made so many videos on this channel already. If you want to learn the absolute basics of programming, you can just watch my beginner videos. I have several videos that are 1 or 2 hours long where I explain most of these basics. So also the properties are not really needed, and I will rearrange the brackets real quick so it matches my personal style that I like for the bracket arrangement. So we do have these 3 event handling functions left. This function is called when the program is activated. This one is when it's deactivated or deinitialized. This one is called with every single tick in the chart. So if the price moves, it will call the onTick function. In most programs, it's the most important one for this reason. So what we want to do is, first of all, I want to get the values of this moving average, or I want to get the values of any moving average pretty much. So what we have to do is we will have to create a moving average indicator handle. And to store this handle somewhere, we will need to create a variable. Again, I explain variables and everything in super detail in these more basic tutorials, but here just in short, a variable is just an address pretty much in the random access memory of your PC. So it will reserve a specific spot or a specific range of bits and bytes in your memory of your PC where you can then store values. So to declare a variable, we go like this. We have the variable data type. We have the name. The name is something you can choose. The variable data type is predefined. Integer means this can be numbers like 1, 3, or 44. So any number without a decimal point. And then we end the line with a semicolon. Now we can store values in this variable. We could go like this, for example. This would mean we will put the value 2 inside of this variable. Pretty basic stuff. And if we compile this program now by clicking on the compile button, we then take this text file here. This text file here that we modify, and the compiler will turn it into an executable file for the MetaTrader 5. So if we want to print, for example, the value here using the print function, which is a predefined function in the MetaTrader 5, we can now go to our MetaTrader 5, and don't forget to compile after adding the print. So now if we go to our MetaTrader 5, we can go to the navigator here. If you don't see it, go to View Navigator. And here we go to Expert Advisors. Then we will find the Midnight Flow or Gold Midnight Flow. Oh, where is it? There it is. The program here, and you should find it here in this experts folder if you compiled correctly. So go to Navigator, open the Expert Advisor folder, and then find your program. For me, the name is Gold Midnight Flow because it's a cool name, I think. So if I click on OK, you can see the program is now running in the upper right corner of the chart. And if we have a look at the experts journal of our toolbox here, you can see it indeed prints 2. Because I added this print statement in the onInit function. So when the program is initialized, this function is called. So we put the value 2 in this specific variable, which is then located at this specific space in the memory of your PC, and then we just print it. Okay, so far so good. Of course, we don't want to have 2 inside of our variable, but instead we want to have a indicator, right? Or a indicator handle. We do create indicator handles using predefined functions. For example, the IMA function. If you go to tools, to help, MT5 reference, and if your cursor, your mouse cursor is inside of a function name, for example, it will automatically open the MT5 reference with the entry for this specific function, or whatever you want to look up. And here it says the function returns a handle of the moving average indicator. It only has one buffer. So it means we can get a handle that pretty much describes how a specific indicator looks, and it will store this handle in a variable if we do it like this. So what we now have to do is we have to go through this list of so-called parameters for this IMA function. So you can see here there are different parameters requested. They have different data types. The data types are always here defined. For example, we know integer already, but we also see string or enum timeframes or enum MA method or enum applied price. What this is something you can read here. All of the parameters are explained in detail. I will do it really quick now. So first one is the symbol name. If you just provide underscore symbol, which is a system variable, and you can of course also look this up, you will see it will always contain the number of the current chart. So if I run this in XAU US dollar, it will give me XAU US dollar as a string or text value. So strings are text values. And then the second one, and you just concatenate or list all of the parameters divided by semicolons. By commas. You just see like the next parameter is the time frame that is requested. So we could say period H1, for example, if we want to have the 1 hour time frame. But as I said, we maybe want to have the 1 hour, we maybe want to have the D1. So in this case, it makes sense to make this a little bit more flexible. And in this case, you can create a so-called input variable. We want to do this at the very top of our program outside of any function. And then we say input, which is the code word pretty much for the PC or for the compiler to understand that this is an input variable. And then we do have the data type, which is enum timeframes. And this makes sense because if you remember correctly, this is exactly what is requested here for the IMA function. And then we define a name. And I can say, for example, MA timeframe. And now I can choose the value here as a default value. So this is pretty much the same as I choose here. But now instead of saying period H1, which would be hard-coded, I can say MA timeframe here. So now we are referring to this specific variable. So the input makes this a user input variable. And what this is something we will see in a second. But let me first of all go on with this list of parameters. It usually makes sense, or this is how I like to do it, to make a lot of the necessary parameters for indicators, for example, input variables. So now I will create another one. This is of type integer, as we can see here, and I will call this MA periods. And I can say, for example, 100. And then the next parameter, or let me use this here as a value for this parameter for the IMA function. Next one is the shift value. Here I just usually hard code 0. And then we need the mode. And here I will do the same thing. I will go MA method will be mode SMA, for example. So I can say MA method, and whatever the user of the program decides to choose in the inputs will be used to create this moving average handle. And the last one is the applied price. So here I also have a enumeration, and I choose a name for my variable, and I will just go with price close for now. So MA applied price. So if I do it like this, and if I compile, you can see now I don't have any errors. So I go back to my program, and now if we double click on this little head sign here in the upper right corner of the chart, you can see I do see some inputs here now. So this is like the operation mask that I can use to change the settings of my program. So you can see all of the variables that I declared as input variables are available here now. And since I use these enumerations, I do get these fancy drop-down menus. So if you are totally confused now, this is not a problem if you are new to programming, but what these enumerations are, and little trick again, you can go to help, MT5 reference, and it will open this enumeration entry. So you can see there are different enums or enumerations. Enumerations hold a bunch of identifiers that are predefined for this specific enumeration. So you can see for enum timeframes, for example, all of these IDs, all of the timeframes that we have in the MetaTrader 5 pretty much are predefined. So this is why if we use this enumeration as a input variable, we can choose out of one out of all of these timeframes. For the MA method, the enumeration is a little bit different. The definition or the values for this enumeration is different, and we only get these 4 values or IDs, which are the different types of moving averages that we do have in MetaTrader 5. And then same thing for applied price. Here we do have the different applied price IDs. Okay, so far so good. Now since we set up this, we can see what kind of value is now stored in our handle MA. It's no longer 2, but now it's 10. And this 10, in fact, does not really mean anything. It just means it's the first handle that we declared. And why do we need this handle? So as you can see, this handle IMA just stands for the number 10, or I just created the number 10 pretty much. This is because indicators in MQL5 are it's set up like this. If you want to work with an indicator in the MetaTrader 5, you have this concept of handles. And handles are pretty much just the description for one specific indicator, and this makes sense because we defined exactly how this moving average looks by providing these parameters. And then we just create this so-called handle and store it somewhere in the memory of our PC. But the MetaTrader 5 will interpret this handle a little bit differently. It will see that if we, for example, use this handle now, it will not only see this number 10, but it will have all of this information stored somewhere in the memory of your PC. And the handle is, again, just a pointer to this specific address. So long story short, what a handle is, it's just a description for one specific indicator, and we can then use this handle to address or to use this specific indicator. And this is what we want to do now. So I want you to go to the onTick function now. And here in the onTick function, we will call something else. We will call the copy buffer function. And this is again a predefined function, which is part of the MQL5 framework. So we can use it right away, and it will get us data of a specified buffer of a certain indicator in the necessary quantity. So this sounds confusing, and it is if you never worked with it, but I will explain it, so no worries. So you can see here again, we have the signature of this function. So this is how it looks. It is called copy buffer. We do need a indicator handle as the first parameter. which is great because we have one. So what we can do here is we can say our handle MA, this variable will be our first parameter for the copy buffer function. Then we need the buffer number. And this is pretty easy because our moving average only has one buffer. So it's just one line. And you can see, for example, for every bar in the chart, I just opened the data window for this. For every bar in the chart, the moving average has exactly one value. So we can just say the buffer number is 0 or main line, which is pretty much the same. If you're wondering what the buffer number of your moving average is, or your indicator is, usually you can read about this in the documentation, I hope. Yeah, I mean, here we don't see it, but if we have a look, for example, at another indicator, you can see here for the MACD, for example, you do have 2 buffers and the buffer numbers are explained here. And this is usually the case for most of the indicators that do have more buffers. For example, the Bollinger Bands indicator, you will usually find a node in this case. And if you don't find a node and if there's only one value, yeah, it's usually main line or 0, what you can use. Then we have a starting position. And as I said, the moving average has a value for every single bar. So we do need some kind of mechanism to figure out what specific bar we are talking about, right? And here we have the concept of bar indexing. So every bar has an index. The latest bar, the current bar, has index 0. The previous bar is index 1. Then comes 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so on. So we always count starting, and we start counting at the current or last bar in the chart at the very right side. This is number 0. So what I can do here is, for example, I can say I want to start at index 1, and then I want to have a count. And I can say, for example, count should be 2. And then the last parameter might be a little bit confusing. This is a double array. Oh, by the way, and count just means that I want to have 2 values. So right now, starting at index 1, I will start at not the current bar, but the last bar in the chart. And by saying I want to have 2 values, I will get this value and this value. So 2 values starting at the index that I provided before. And these 2 values have to be stored somewhere so I can have access to them later on. And therefore we will need this double array, which is the last parameter of the copy buffer function. In this case, we need to provide just a double array, and I will call this array MA. And now if I compile, there's a problem because this MA is not defined, so I'll have to declare this, and I can do it like this. So this, actually like this. So this will declare a double array. So what double values are, is pretty much double values are numbers like this, or like this, or like this. So numbers that have a decimal point. There's a difference, or that is the difference if we compare it to integer numbers. Because integer numbers can only be real numbers without a decimal point, and double values that are numbers pretty much that can have a decimal point. The name of this array is MA. This could be anything. So this would also work. But I like to name it MA because it makes sense, because it will hold the moving average values. And then we do have these 2 squared brackets, the opening and closing squared bracket. They will tell the PC that this is an array. So if we compile it, it kind of works. We don't get an error. If I would leave this out, we would get an error, because now it's just a single double variable. But if I add these squared brackets, it's now a array. So this is a way to tell the PC that this is an array. So what does this mean? So if I just print MA0, like this and MA1 like this, you would see if I compile this, it works. So I can address or receive values or get values from this specific array by using the index of the values in this array. And since we stored 2 values here with a count of 2 inside of this array, we have index 0 and index 1 available. We don't have index 2 because we only stored 2 values, and counting for indices or indexes, I don't know, starts at 0. So if I print this, you will see I now get the 2 values for this bar and this bar here printed in the expert's journal. So that's pretty cool, I think. And yeah, if I now try to print index 2, you will see that's not a good thing, because now we get this array out of range error, which will cause our program to crash. So you can only have access, or you only have access to the indices in an array that are there and available. So if you store 2 values in an array, then you can only access these 2 values. And counting, again, starts at 0. So let me activate the program again. And yeah, there we go. So now you can see we do get these values. It's a little bit annoying if we print them all the time. So let me get rid of this. And now we can make use of these 2 values to figure out if we are in a long trend or in a short trend. So what I want to do is I want to figure out if the moving average, if the last bar of the moving average has a higher value than the previous bar, because this means that the moving average is going up. This is pretty easy and straightforward. It's one of the easiest way to figure out a trend in MetaTrader programming. So what I need here is a so-called control structure. I will use a if statement for this. So we learned already how to get the values in this moving average array. So what we want to do is we want to check if one value is bigger than another one. And if we want to check a specific condition, we need a control structure for this, in this case a if statement. This if statement always looks like this. You do have this, let's say, code word if, and then in round brackets we have a condition. Our condition is we compare one value to another value, and we compare it using a comparison operator. We do have different comparison operators like smaller than, we have greater than, we do have equal, and we do have not equal, unequal. I don't know what the word is. And these are the most important operators that we use in if statements or whenever we want to build conditions. And if this condition is true, then we enter the so-called body of this if statement, which is wrapped by these curly brackets. This is really important. These are curly brackets. And now inside of the body of the if statement, we can do something. We can say, for example, long trend. So if we compile this, we should see that we are currently in a long trend. And it could also be possible that there's a short trend. So how do we check this? In this case, we say else if MA1 is smaller than MA0. And if this is true, we print short trend. So now you can see we combined these 2 if statements with this else if. This else if directly following after the body of the first if statement means that if this is true, we don't check this. But if this is false, we might, or we do check this, and we might as well enter the body of this second if statement here. But only if this condition is true. So if we compile this and go back to our program, it still says long trend. And this makes sense because we are currently in a long trend. So yeah, let's check if we can find a short trend in the strategy tester. So let me go to view strategy tester and then go to visualize, and then in for expert choose the program that you want to test. In this case it's of course the gold midnight flow. Then we choose a symbol that we want to test. Here I will go with gold, and then I go to the H1 time frame, and then I test for the current year only, and make sure to use the visual mode here. And then also in the inputs you could adjust this, but yeah, for now I will just go with the default settings because that's totally fine. So now this should open a separate window where we can see a visualized backtest using historical data for the program that we just created. And this is a great way of also checking the logic of your program and to figure out if everything's working just fine. So here you can see it automatically applies or creates this moving average. And if we go to the journal now, we can see there's a short trend and now there's a long trend. So you can see the print statement here is changing, and it depends on the kind of trend that we do have. So here this still counts as a long trend, but now it is a short trend. And it always follows like the direction of, or the nose pretty much of the moving average. So it compares the last two values, and if the last bar is below the previous bar, then we do see short trend. And if it's the other way around, if we do have a last bar which is above the previous bar, we do see this long trend. So this is pretty cool to figure out what kind of trend we currently have. But instead of printing some stuff here, we of course now want to open positions, right? So the easiest way to do this is, if you want to open positions, it makes sense to use the ctrade class. And therefore, you should include the ctrade class by writing this line at the very top of your program. Write this hashtag include, and then in spiky brackets or smaller than and greater than, you write trade/trade.mqh. And what this does is it will include a file, which you can find here in the include folder in your navigator. If you go to trade, you will find this trade.mqh file. And if you are new to programming, don't really look into this because it's super confusing. But what you have to understand is, or what you have to know for this tutorial, we can now use the ctrade class, which is defined in this specific file, to open and close and modify positions. So the easiest way to set this up is to create an object variable of type ctrade. So you have to write it exactly like this. CT is with uppercase letters, and then rate, ctrade, and then this is the name for the variable. So this could be anything. This could be anything. So this would also work if I compile. But I like to use the name trade because it's kind of easy to understand what it is. And then end the line with a semicolon. So declaration of object variable of class ctrade. Declare object variable of class ctrade. And now, since we have this variable here, we can use it to open positions. So what we can do is, here where we do have the long trade, we say trade and then this dot operator. And then you can see a preview of all of the functions that we can now use. And these functions are defined in this trade.mqh file that we just included. So what you can see is we can, for example, say buy. And now if we open the list of parameters by writing the first round bracket here, we can see there are different parameters we have to provide. The first one is the volume. So what I like to do here is I create an input variable for this, and this is of type double. So I can say, for example, the lot size should be 0.1, and now I can use this variable and use it here as the first parameter. And if I compile, you can see this already works. There's no error, even though I did not provide a value for all of these parameters. And this is because except for the volume, every other parameter has a default value. What does this mean? So you can see in this list of parameters, the names of the parameters are followed by this equal something, which means that there is a default value provided for these parameters. So we don't have to provide new values for these parameters. And if we don't, the program just uses the default values. But we could override these parameters with our own values. So we could say, for example, we want to open at a specific price. We want to have a stop loss. We want to have a take profit. So yeah, that's how this works. And then we can also say trade sell here and say lots and symbol or underscore symbol. And now if you activated the program on your in your chart already, you have to be really, really careful because it will open a lot of positions. And this is, of course, why you should never write code or new programs in a live trading account, because it can completely mess up everything. So you can see here, now I opened a lot of positions and I open even more positions. So why is this the case? The problem is we are constantly in a long trend. So we are constantly opening more positions. So let me delete or deactivate algo trading here for a while, and let me close these positions. So yeah, as I said, the problem is that we added this code in the on-tick function of our program, which means pretty much that with every single tick, we then execute this code. So if for every single tick the condition is true, we will enter the body of this if statement for every single tick. And inside of the body of this if statement, it says trade.buy. So the problem is that now with every single tick, we open a new buy position, which is really a problem. So you always have to make sure that your conditions are not true all of the time if you don't want them to be true all of the time or with every single tick. Okay, last position closed. So now all of my positions are closed. Yeah, I will activate the program again, but I don't activate algo trading here. We can still see in the expert journal the program tries to open more and more positions, but since algo trading is deactivated, it is not allowed to. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we only open positions if, for example, we don't have positions. So you can say something like if positions total is equal 0, and only then I want to go here. So this is another if statement, and here you can see you can wrap multiple if statements inside of other if statements. So for example, I can make this if statement here on a bigger scope, so to say, and only if this condition is true, we enter the body of this if statement and check this kind of stuff. This is also why I like to move everything a little bit to the right if it is inside of another controlled structure. So here, for example, we check if positions total is equal 0, and positions total, if you check it in the reference, it's just the number of open positions. And this is the comparison operator here. So we check if we don't have any positions in our account. And if this is true, then we want to check this. So if we compile this and if I activate the auto trading again now, you can see now there's not that much of a problem. Oh, wait, have to activate algo trading here again. So you can see we still open one position, but then even though there are more ticks, we don't open more positions because we do have this piece of code which prevents this from happening. So this is some kind of safety, and now we can make sure that we only open a maximum of one position with this program. Yeah, so what do we want to do next? I mean, we will adjust this later on to make it a little bit smarter, but for now, this is how we want it. So now let's take care of the other parameters here. So for price, let's just go with 0. But for stop loss, TP, or we can also add a price later on. So what you can see here is there are different parameters for the buy and the sell function. And we can provide a price, a stop loss, a TP, and a comment. And what this does is, if we provide a stop loss and TP, for example, we will not only open a position without stop loss and TP, but we will open a position with stop loss and TP. And we can, for example, say we want to create an input here for this. And we can say, for example, TP percent should be something like, I don't know, 0.3. And we do have SL percent 1.0. This would be typical for a scalping program because we do have ATP, which is a lot closer than a stop loss. And now if we go here to our program again, before we open the positions, we now want to make some calculations. First of all, let's get the ask price, which is the current buying price for a symbol. We can get this using the symbol info double function and then provide symbol and symbol ask as parameters. I will not explain everything in detail because this is not new at this point. It's just a function which is part of the MQL5 framework. You can see here it returns a double value. The name is symbol info double. It has two parameters. The first one is a string for the symbol. The second one is a enumeration. And if you want to have a look at the enumeration, just check this out. These are all the values that you can get for your current or for the symbol that you provided. So what this does is it will just give us the ask price for a current chart symbol. So now we can use this ask price to calculate the TP and the stop loss. So what I want to do is I want to say if TP percent is greater than 0, I want to say TP is equal to ask plus ask multiplied with TP percent divided by 100. This will just add the TP percentage to the current ask price. This is just mathematical operation. I will not explain this. Then we do have SL, a new SL variable, and we will check if SL percent is greater than 0, and then we go with ask minus ask multiplied with SL percent divided by 100. So now we do have all of these calculations, and we do have the TP price and the SL price calculated, and we also have the ask price, which we can use as entry price for a position. So we will use ask, SL, and TP, which are just these three variables of type double that we just created. And if we compile it like this, and if we now open another position, you can see instead of having no TP and no SL, we now do have a TP and a SL. Yeah, maybe the distance is a little bit too far, but we can change these values because it's a input variable. So we can say 0.01 or 0.05, and this was for the lots, 0.1 or 0.05 for TP and 0.2 for stop loss. So if I say OK and close the position, so we open a new one, you can see TP and SL are different now and a lot closer to the current price. So yeah, this is how you can set up TP and SL for your positions. We can, of course, or we should do the same thing, the same process for the sell positions. Here, of course, we will work with the bid price, which is the current seller price. Or the current price that we can use to sell a symbol. The rest is pretty much the same. If TP percent is greater than 0, we say TP is equal bid minus bid multiplied with the TP percent divided by 100. And then we do have SL, and we say if SL percent is greater than 0, we have SL is equal to bid plus bid multiplied with the SL percent divided by 100. So yeah, this is how we do. And now I just have to use these variables here to use them as values for the parameters for the cell function here. Last one is the comment, and you can just provide any text you want here. But yeah, I like to use it. I like to use a input variable for this also. Let's say commentary, for example, and we can say something like midnight flow, like this. And if we now use this commentary input variable here, you will see that all of these positions now have a comment here, which is midnight flow. So here you see midnight flow is now the comment. Also, while we're talking about this here already, you can see there is this column which is called magic number. If you don't see it, you can go to column, right-click columns and activate the magic number. Because in MetaTrader 5, there's this concept of magic numbers. And this is what you often see if you work with expert advisors. And we will now also use this magic number in our program. So what you can see, I just created another input variable, which is of type integer, but it could also be of type unsigned long, which is pretty much like an integer. It's just a bigger number, or it can be a bigger number. And you can see I called this magic, and I added a random value pretty much. And what I now want to do is, inside of our onInit function, I want to say trade set expert magic number. And here you can see it requests a number. And here I will just provide my magic number from the inputs. And now this is all we do. And now for this specific trade object variable, this one, the magic number is set, which means that all of the positions that are opened with this object variable will have this magic number. So let me open a position again, and you can now see the magic number is exactly as I chose it here in the comment. I can also change this. So we always use the values from the inputs now for new positions. And this is super helpful, because if you do use multiple expert advisors in your program, for example, let's say I don't want to use the midnight flow only in gold. I also want to use it in this DE40. If I activate it here, I could just use a different magic number and a different name, DE40 best EA ever. And then if I click on OK, so now you can see I don't open another position because I do have a position already. And positions total is not 0 in the second chart. So yeah, this is maybe a good moment to kind of fix this issue. So, okay, so since we are working with the magic number now, we can also count all of the positions of our program using this specific magic number. So what I want to do is here in the onTick function, I want to quickly check all of the positions in our account and find the positions that have the magic number of our program. Yeah, I will write this quickly. So this is another control structure. It belongs to the same family as the if statement, but this time it is a loop. What does this mean? A loop can be used to do a specific task multiple times. So in this case, we want to loop or check all of the positions in our account. This is why I set up the loop like this. The loop looks always like this, or the for loop looks like this. You write for, which is like the code word. Then in round brackets, you have this, I think it's called initialization, and then you have a semicolon, then you have a main condition, and then you have a I think it's called, I don't know what it's called. Precondition is wrong, I think. Past condition. Yeah, it's something you do after every iteration. Yeah, that seems to be right. So you do have this initialization, which is processed once if the for loop is initialized. So if the code reaches this line pretty much, we create an integer variable with a name I, and we store the amount of total positions in this variable. So right now, if we do have one position, the value in this I is 0, of course, because we have one position and we subtract 1. Then we check our main condition next, where we check if I, in this case 0, is greater or equal 0, which is true, because 0 is greater or equal 0. So we enter the body of our for loop, and here we do stuff. This is the body of the for loop, again wrapped in curly brackets. And then after doing this stuff, we subtract I by 1. So I minus minus is the same as writing I is equal to I minus 1. It's just a shorter form of writing. And after doing this, we don't go back to the initialization, but instead we check the condition again. So you can see we initialize I with a specific value, then we always check if I is greater or equal 0, and after every iteration of the loop, we subtract 1 from this I value. So at some point, because I always gets smaller and smaller, at some point I is not greater or equal 0 anymore. So what we want to do here is we want to get the position ticket of the position at a specific index. And the index here will be I. So the position get ticket function, it will just get us the ticket of a position with a specified index in the list of open positions. So this sounds complex, but it is not. The list of open positions is what you can see here in the toolbox. And if we, for example, open another position, now we have two positions. The first one is index 0, the second one is index 1. The third one is index 2. So indexing starts again at 0, and we just go up with the number, the more positions we have. So now we can see, for example, if I print the position ticket, you will see I will print all of these position tickets in the expert journal. Here you can see this is happening because we just loop through these open positions. Of course, we don't just want to print the position ticket, but what we want to do is here, since the position get ticket function, it will automatically select a position also. We can then use this selected position for the position get double, get integer, and get string function. And what these functions do is they will help you to get specific properties of a selected position. So what we want to do is we want to check if position get string position symbol is equal to the chart symbol. And this is a this is a comparison operator, I think, or a logical operator. I think this is a logical operator. We can use this to combine multiple conditions. So here what we want to do is we want to check the magic number. We want to check if it's equal to the magic number of our program. So this is why we want to use the magic number. Also these logical operators, there are multiple of these. This is AND, this is OR, and yeah, that's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, I hope I didn't forget anything. But yeah, and you always use it with two of these signs. So don't forget this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, so we check if we found a position with the specific position symbol and position magic number. So you can see now, even though we still have 3 positions, we only print the same position ticket every time because only this position ticket has this specific magic number. So what we want to do now here is, of course, we want to count our positions. So let's say count, for example, and then if we find a position, we want to increase the value in this count variable by 1. And by writing this plus plus, which is the opposite of minus minus, we just add 1 to this count. So now, instead of saying position total is equal 0, we would say count is equal 0. So this will make sure that this variable only counts the positions that have the magic number that we chose for this specific program. And now we can see it automatically opened another position for a DE40 chart where the program is still active, because here we do have a different magic number. So you can see now also, if I close this position, or if I close both positions, we get both positions back. If I only close this position, we only get this position back. And yeah, this is because we use the magic number now, which is a great concept and can be used and is used a lot when working with expert advisors. And it totally makes sense. Okay, so what our program still needs is this cool trailing stop feature that I kind of announced, right? So this is super easy. What we can do is we can create some more inputs for this. Let's go with TSL trigger percent, 0.001, I don't know. And then we go with TSL percent, 0.1, for example. And I mean, this could be even lower, 0.05, something like this. So what we want to do now is we want to check in this for loop that we already have. And if we found a position that has the same symbol and the same magic number as our program here, if we find this position, then what we want to do is we want to check if this is a buy position. And we can do so by checking the position type and check if it is equal position type buy, which is a enumeration, of course. And then we can also check if it's not a buy position. We want to check if it's maybe a sell position. And I mean, there are only these two options, so it's pretty clear. And then we want to check if we have a buy position. Let's get the ask and bid price out of this. So I just cut it from here and paste it at the very top of our onTick function, because we will also use it now in the in this loop here. So what I want to do is for a buy position, I want to check if the if the bid price is greater than the position open price, and we should get the position open price here. Position price open and position get double. Position price open. So you can see I'm not explaining a lot here, but I'm actually just using the position get functions, position get integer, position get double, etc., etc. And they are pretty easy to understand. You always have this position get double, integer, or string, and then you have a identifier. And you can look these identifiers up in the reference. It's pretty easy, and it's explained like in detail what kind of identifier this is and what it returns. So I'm just getting a lot of properties out of my currently selected position. And then let me also get the position TP. Get double, position TP, and let me also get the SL, because we will need this later on. Position SL. So like this. So now what I want to do is I want to check if the current bid price is greater than the position open price plus position price open multiplied with TSL trigger percent divided by 100. So this is our condition that we check if the trailing stop loss trigger was reached. Oh, and also what I would like to do is I want to check if TSL trigger percent is greater than 0, because the user might want to disable the trailing stop loss by saying TSL trigger percent is 0. So in this case, we want to calculate the new SL, or the trailing stop loss here, and we can do so by saying bid minus TSL percent, bid multiplied with TSL percent divided by 100. So again, just a mathematical operation, pretty simple math. We're just subtracting the TSL percent from the inputs from the current bid price. And this is our stop loss. And then we want to check if the TSL that we just calculated, if it is greater than the current position stop loss. And if this is true, then we want to say trade modify or position modify. And then we use our position ticket we use the new stop loss and the old take profit from this variable. So position modify is again part of the ctrade class. We can use it with our trade object variable and this point operator. And then it has 3 parameters. We of course have to provide the ticket for the position that we want to modify, and then a new value for the stop loss and a new value, or in this case the old value for the TP, because we don't want to change the TP. And then of course also for sell positions we want to check if TSL trigger percent is greater than 0 and ask is smaller than position price open minus position price open multiplied with TSL trigger percent divided by 100. And if this is true, we calculate the new stop loss for the sell position. Everything's just the opposite as for buy positions. And then we check if TSL is smaller than stop loss or stop loss is equal to 0. This is important for sell positions because if the stop loss is 0 and there is no stop loss, this would never be true. So we have to check if the position maybe does not have a stop loss so far. But yeah, then we say position modify position ticket, TSL and TP like this. And if we compile this here, we should now see if we open new positions and they go into profit, it should modify our stop loss. So let's adjust these values again a little bit. And let's go. So if I close the position and we open a new position and hopefully this one goes into profit, and there it is. It's in profit and we already see the trailing stop. I think the position was modified. Yeah, it was modified as we can see here in the journal, and it should be 0.05% away from the current price, and it is. So yeah, this is how we do this. And you can also say, of course, you want to modify and set the stop loss and the trailing stop loss in profit immediately. Maybe like this. Then it would be a super aggressive stop loss. Yeah, and this will pretty much take out the position very quickly. There it is. And then we open a new position because this is currently how the program is set up. Also, we get some of these errors here. Yeah, some of these operations are skipped, and we can, I think, fix this if we round the value here to the precision of the digits. What this does is we just take the TSL value that we calculated and we round it to the precision of digits that we do have for a current chart symbol, because this is stored in the digits variable, and the normalized double function, it just rounds a number. So yeah, I think this kind of did the trick, and now we don't get this no changes error anymore. And yeah, the program is so far really quite working already, but there's still one thing we have to do, because now it's it kind of works. But wait, let's move to the strategy tester here for some testing. But it does not really work. So if we have a look at the strategy tester again with the same program, everything's the same pretty much. So if we test it, we can see it will open positions all of the time, and it will just close them either in stop loss or take profit, and then immediately open a new position, which is cool, but not, of course, not really what we want. So I will have to add some code so we open a position only in the morning, maybe once every single day. This I think definitely makes sense. And then wait, why is this loading so slowly here? Hello, please load faster. Okay, there we are. So yeah, you can see we we just open the position all of the time, and if there's a buy trend, we open buy positions. If there's a sell trend, we open sell positions, and pretty much nothing really happens. And I think we make a lot of losses because we just have a lot of these trading costs, and you cannot really make profits like this. So what we want to do is we want to work a little bit with times. So let's create some more inputs for this. We could say something like, oh, and also if you don't know this, you can make cool groups here. You can say group trade settings. And you can make another group signal settings. And a third group indicator settings. So if we now go to the settings again, it will look so much cooler because here in the settings, boom, trade settings, signal settings, indicator settings. That's cool, right? Okay, so let's add some signal settings. So we can say, for example, time open hour is something like 3 o'clock in the morning. Time open minute, like 0. And then we also want to have time close hour, because I said I don't want to trade during the high slippage time. Or this was my idea. I don't know if this makes sense, but I will show you how it's done. So now we added these 4 inputs, and so far they don't do anything, but they look really, really cool here in the signal settings. Boom. But now we want to use this. So we do want to work with times now a bit. So up here in the onTick function, where we create the MQL date time variable, this is a structure. And I know, confusing if you never heard of this, but a structure is just a predefined construct in programming that holds different variables. So it's pretty much, it's not one variable, but it's a predefined set of variables, so to say. This is a structure. And what we can do is we can use the time current function to fill all of these variables really, really quickly by using this time current function, because the time current function, it will give us the last known server time. And if we call it with the parameter of type MQL date time, it will put all of the, or it will update all of the variables here in this MQL datetime structure. So now we do have the year, the month, the day, the hour, the minute, the second of the server right now. And now what we can do is I want to update the seconds and say this should be just 0. And then I want to say the hour should be time open hour. And the minute should be time open minute. And now I want to reverse this back to a datetime variable. Let's say time open. And here we say struct to time. And this requests a datetime structure, and it will transform it to a datetime variable. A datetime variable in MQL5 programming works as a simple data type pretty much. And it is just the number of seconds that elapsed since the 1st January 1970. So it's just a pretty big number. And the EA or the computer will be able to interpret this number as one specific point in time. So what we can do here is we can use this time open variable now, and we can say if count is equal 0 and time current, and this will now, if we don't use a parameter here, will just give us the current server time. If this is greater or equal the time open, then we want to open a position. And also we want to check, this kind of makes sense. We also want to make sure if time current, how do we do this? Yeah, let's just check if it's smaller than time open plus 10 or so. I mean, this is not perfect, so it's not perfect. It's not perfect. So maybe let's make this a little bit more perfect, and we say we check if we already traded on this specific day by checking if isTrade is equal to false. And isTrade will be a variable that I create now, but I create it up here on a global scale. So I say bool isTrade, and Boolean variables can be only true or false. So we kind of have a variable now that can be either true or false. And if there was a trade on a specific day, I want this to be true. And if there was no trade, I want it to be false. So what I want to do is here, I go back to where I open the positions. I want to check if trade.buy, blah, blah, blah. And then I wrap this in a if statement and create the body for this if statement. Here I want to say isTrade is equal to true. And here I want to check if we opened a sell position. And in this case, I also want to say isTrade is equal to true. And here I then check if isTrade is false. So after opening a position, isTrade is true. So this condition will not be true. So we don't enter the body again and open more positions. And again, you can also write it like this. It's the same, it's just a shorter form of writing. So now we have to make sure that isTrade is also resetted, right? So what we want to do is here, we want to make sure that we also calculate the time for the close. So we want to make sure that here dt hour is time close hour and dt minute is time close minute. And then we say datetime time close is equal to struct to time dt. So this will calculate our close time using the two input variables here. And then in our loop here, we can now make sure that just somewhere here, we want to say, actually we don't even have to loop. We just say if time current is greater than time close, isTrade should be false. So we are prepared for the next day. And now in our loop, we want to check if we found a position. And we can add it down here. If time current is greater than time close or greater or equal. We can also use greater or equal up here. Sorry for jumping around so much, but just make sure to watch everything carefully so you don't miss anything. So if we are above the closing time, then we want to say trade position close, and we provide the position ticket to close the position. And that's pretty much it. So if we now do this same test again without changing any inputs, it should be a completely different result. Because now we still open positions, but we open it only once in the morning. And then we close the positions in the afternoon before the high slippage period or the big moves in the US session start. Oh, and there is the chart. So yeah, let's see if this works. So let's wait for the next day. There it is. So we can see here at 3 o'clock in the morning, we open a buy position. It does have a TP and stop loss. And there is a buy trend and there is the trailing stop. Boom, nice profit, great strategy. Okay, let's move on. Then, during the next day we open, it's not working. What the frick? Okay, yeah, I figured out what the problem is. This was the position closing time, so we always reset the isTrade. So what we have to do here is we have to say, before we open a position, we want to check if time current is greater or equal to time open, and we want to check if time current is smaller time close. So let's go back and do it again. So here we should now see that we still open this position, but then we don't open another position during this day, and we just open a new position on the next day, 3 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, sorry, I fast forwarded a bit here. So yeah, there it is. And next position is open the next day, 3 o'clock in the morning. And yeah, I guess it's another profit because this is the best strategy ever. And I mean, pretty simple idea. Now the backtesting process would start, where you have to do some kind of backtesting. And you can see, of course, I was joking. Not every trade is a winner, of course. A lot of these trades will be losing trades, but I think with all of the stuff I tried to consider here, like the chances for a lot of slippage are not super high because we trade during the night session pretty much, where there is not that much going on in gold usually, because usually the US markets drive gold heavily. And we only trade once per day, every single day in the morning, following the overall trend direction, which is defined using this moving average. And yeah, you can see so far it's not profitable this year. But I mean, yeah, you would have to just do some testing. Here again, now it's profitable. But yeah, you just have to do some testing to figure out what kind of settings could work, what settings do not work. And then next step, of course, would be to use it in a small live account to check if the slippage really is not that huge in this specific live account, or if it's just something you can use in the tester. But yeah, this is a tutorial for a fairly simple program, scalping program, which just can be used to trade gold. Or there was a big loss. This has to be the initial stop loss. Which can be used to trade gold or any other market using a really simple and easy algorithm. So yeah, hope you like this. Make sure to do your own tests and let me know in the comments what you think. Yeah, I can show you the code one more time. Make sure to copy it. I don't post the code in the comments because, yeah, just copy it and you will learn something. So let's go here. So you can compare this to your own code. And if you copied everything as I did, you will have the same results. And if you don't, or if you have errors, you have to check the code again. That's it. That's the program. Thanks for watching. Have a great time. Good trades. Bye.